So we have to have well equipped with Bible studies, Bible knowledges to defend the Christianity. Okay, theology means actually study of scripture. Normally, study of scripture, when we talk about evangelism, it is not like just some Bible verses. It is more than that. Actually, study of scripture means we have to equip ourselves with academic theology. Okay, theology means it is study of the divine nature, Christian belief, and then the practice of Christian faith. All those things we have to study academically. That is theology. Okay, originally, theology is derived from Greek words. Actually, two words are combined, theos and logos. So with those two words combined, now we see theology. Okay, theos means God. The logos means word or reason, discourse. Okay, so with combined word, theology means discourse about God or study of God. That is theology. In other explanation, discourse about God means talking about God. What is God? Why we have to have God? Why there is a God? So, same meaning. Discourse about God and study of God, same meaning. Okay? So that's theology. Theology is focused on what the divine nature is like. What is our Christian belief? And then also talking about what is our practice as Christian. Those topics discussed in theology. Okay, in theology, we have to have a certain kind of a perspective, which is intellectual point of view and philosophical point of view. With those 2 point of view, intellectual, in other words, academically, philosophically, we have to understand, interpret Bible, and then teachings, the traditions, rituals. Those are all subjects we have to study. Okay, in theology, there are many subdivisional academic fields, like hermeneutics, hermeneutics is like a contextual study of Bible. Okay, when we look at the Bible verses, we try to find the true meaning of certain verses. that is depend on the study of contextual settings, like historical settings, like cultural settings. Through those settings, point of view, we try to find out the true meaning of certain verses of Bible. That is hermeneutics. And then also another division is Christian apologetics. That is actual depending of Christian faith. Is talking about. And then systemic theology. In systemic theology, there are many, different topics. What is church? What is Jesus? What is human? Yeah, those things are covered in systemic theology. And then pastoral theology. We don't study that one too, okay? I'm just letting you know that there are many subdivisions of theology. Okay, pastoral theology, that is another division of theology, and then also missiology. Missiology means a study of mission. Okay. Okay, here I brought some video that explain what the theology is. Okay, let's watch short video.
I remember reading a book a number of years ago where the author was very insistent that all we need is Jesus, and Jesus is enough, and we don't need anything but Jesus. We don't need these fancy formulas about Jesus. We don't need all of the church's theological musings. We just need Jesus. And that sort of argument, on the face of it, can sound really spiritual. I mean, who wants to disagree? What Christian wants to say, no, we don't need Jesus? Of course we need Jesus. Of course Jesus is enough. Of course Jesus is sufficient. But when you press on that a little bit, it hardly makes sense, because when we say Jesus is enough, or all we need is Jesus, we have to ask the next one, well, what is it about Jesus that makes him all that we need? Or if Christianity is all about Jesus, what is it about Jesus that we want to be all about? As soon as you start to say something about Jesus, and you say, well, it's because of what he did on the cross, or because of the resurrection, or because of how much he loves us, or because of his teaching. Well, once you begin to answer the question, you've gone into the realm of theology. So folks who think, I want Jesus, not theology, they don't have either. Because you can't have Jesus and have him mean something to you unless you know some propositions about him. If I tell you how much I love my wife and how amazing my wife is, and then you say, well, tell me how tall is she? I say, I don't really know. Well, tell me what color are her eyes. I say, I'm not really into those sort of things about her. Well, not only would you question how much I really love her, you would wonder if I could pick her out in a crowd. I don't seem to know.
This is the point. Most people talking about Jesus, and some people say, I believe in Jesus, but some detailed information we don't know. Okay, birth of Jesus, how Jesus was, did his ministry in his time. That is, this person gives example of how, when you love your wife, you don't know how tall she is, how weight she is. Yeah, that is, kind of good example of when you love somebody, you have to know deep detail of that person. So same as theology. When you talk about Jesus, when you talk about God, we have to have, certain answers. Why there is God? Why God gave us Jesus for the people? So talking about those issues is theology. That's his point.
Anything about her? I don't even know any propositions, any facts. Am I just speaking in vague generalities? And the same is true with Jesus. We can speak in these spiritual platitudes of how much we love Jesus, but we need theology if we're going to explain who he is, the God-man, what he accomplished on the cross in his death and resurrection, and what it means for him to be reigning at the Father's right hand, to be the second person of the Trinity, to come back again to judge the living and the dead, to send his Holy Spirit to be the very presence with us in the world. All of these things get into the realm of theology. So there is no Jesus without some theological parameters and some robust filling out and filling up of what we mean about Jesus. And he himself taught this. Unless you know that I am he, unless you confess that I've come from the Father, all of these great declarations, the I am statements in the book of John, Jesus would not have had patience for people who said, I just want Jesus, you, and I'm not interested in learning about you, in understanding what sort of Messiah you are. No, if we're going to have Jesus, we need to have theology.
Yeah. Finally, the point is, when you believe in Jesus, when you believe in God, you have to know Jesus more deeply, detailedly, and academically. You have to know that. It is nothing like just you remember Bible verses. Okay. Deep study of Bible. In academically about Jesus and the God, that is theology. Okay, another division of theology is apologetics. Apologetics means actually defend. Defend of what? Defend Bible. Defend the Christian faith. Defend the teaching of Jesus Christ. That is apologetics. Okay, also apologetic, that word came from Greek word. Okay, Greek word apologetic is apologia. Okay, that means, apologia means defend. And then justification. That is meaning of apologia. In English, apologetics. Okay, so apologetics means we are defending our Christian faith. Opposition coming from non-believers. That is apologetics. So we have to equip ourselves with basic apologetic arguments, and then we have to have logical, response process to all common objections to Christian faith. So we have to study making logical reasoning. Also, we have to study historical evidence of Bible, and then also philosophical principles. That means why I am here, why human is exist, why humans are suffering. that is, philosophical principle. We are searching that principle in the Bible and then depend the Christian faith. We can find that meaning in the Bible verse, Peter book 1, chapter 3, verse 15. It says, but in your hearts reverse Christ as Lord, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness, respect. We have to prepare ourselves to give answer to everyone who have question, objection about Christian faith. We do this kindly, gently, respectfully. That's what the Peter says. Okay, another short video that explains what is apologetics.
Apologetics comes from the Greek word apologia. It means to give a defense. It's found in 1 Peter 3:15, which says, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. The word defense is where we get that Greek word, and basically apologetics seeks to answer the questions that the world has about Christianity. Why did Jesus have to die on a cross? Did Jesus rise from the dead? Are miracles possible? Is there such a thing as prophecy? And has prophecy been fulfilled? Is Jesus really coming again? What about the Bible contradictions? Apologetics seeks to give credible answers to curious questions. But this verse right here in 1 Peter 3:15 says, but do it with gentleness and respect. That's the key. When we share our faith, may we do it in a way that's gentle and courteous and shows respect.
Yeah, the point is when you answer the questions about a question coming from some people who have not faith in Christ. When you give answers for those, do it with kindly, gently, not in arguing situation. That's the point when you give answers to those people who is not believing in Jesus. Okay, another preparation. Okay, personal testimony. Okay, it is also important. When you share your experience as Christian, that give people influence, which triggers people having a Christian faith. So, you can share your faith journey with other peoples. You can share the moment, the point, the instant, the event, you become Christian. And then the experience you have as Christian. When you make your experience as Christian, do it kind of make the story very interesting. Okay, not like boring story. Okay, to do this, you have to design your story. You have to make intro. You have to make a story, of conflict. You have to make the story of climax. Then, lastly, resolution. And then, conclusion. So you have to craft your personal testimony in concise. Concise means simple to understand. Make it story simple to understand. That's concise. And then compelling manner, the insisting manner. The message you want to deliver to others strongly. That is compelling manner. And then when you deliver your message, your experience to others, it should be done. It should have the God's grace. And then how God changed my life. How God changed myself to a different person. And then how deeply you have faith in Christianity in your life. So that topic should be included in the story you want to deliver. Actually your experience story to deliver to others. It should be done in concise, simple to understand, compelling, strong, insist of your message, and highlights God's grace, the transformation, how you change, how you become Christian, how you become better person, and faithfulness, true faith, deep faith. Not changing in faith in your life. Okay, another preparation we have to have equipped listening skill. Okay, we better practice active listening. Not just listening means just open your eye, hear. It is nothing like that. Active listening means you set your mind to understand other people's perspective. You try to understand questions you receive from others. That you try to acknowledge the concerns other people have. That is active listening. So to validate active listening, you have to have empathy mind, humility, humble mind, and genuine, true interest in other people's story. That is part of active listening. Then you also have to practice actual, action is needed. That is compassion and respect. Okay, the book of James says, how empty humility and genuine interest is important. Book of James, chapter 1, verse 19. My dear brother and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Always you have to open your ear to listen person's story you meet. Then become slow to insist your idea to people you meet. That's what we learn from James 1:19. Okay, another preparation. Also, we have to equip ourselves with cultural awareness. Okay, when you do evangelism, when you deliver the message of the Bible, when you spread out the Gospels, we have to equip ourselves with cultural awareness. That means we have to consider cultural background, other people's cultural background, other people's point of view, other people's worldview. And then the context of individuals. That means actual situations they have physically or culturally. So it could be like this. Context of the individual means like geopolitical context, cultural context, socio-economical context. You try to understand those the cultural variations. Some people have a situation is low social economic situations, right? Poor economic, and then socially, marginalized people, or somebody who has, high rank in the society, lot of wealth. So you have to know, you have to consider those social economic situation too. So context of individual means geopolitical, social economical, cultural, context. And then also you have to be very sensitive the difference of the cultures from yours. So you have to first you have to know, then also sensitive how they are different from your culture, how different their languages, how different their social. There are every society, every country, every culture. There's community, right? Each community have their own norms. Norm means like standard. It could be ethics. It could be moral. They have their own standard norms. So we have to very sensitive to know to differentiate the norms from my norms. Then, once we know cultural differences, we can we can adjust ourselves how we can approach to those people to deliver the message of the Bible. Also, preparation. Another topic is, it is needed that you have to have kind of role-playing practice. Pretend that you have actual situation. Practice sharing your gospel with your friends, fellow believers, and mentors. Then you can find out your weak point and then your strong point to deliver the gospel. So, role-playing practice is also important part of your preparation for evangelism. When you do it, make scenarios. Like when you walk on the street, you meet long-time friends, but he is not believing in Jesus. Then in that situation, how you can deliver your message to your friend. So make, kind of scenarios and practice. Then you can find out your weak point and then strong point. Then, you can develop your communication skill and then confidence on the Bible, confidence on your faith. Then how you can clearly, concisely deliver your message to your friend. Okay, another preparation. We have to use sometimes the resources, tools. That could be songs. There are many good songs. It cannot be only Christian songs. It could be any songs that you think it is appropriate to use. It could be any song. It could be any book, websites, multimedia. When you use it, prepare yourself to use it as almost professional levels. Okay, not just end user level. Like you design the presentation, you have to have ideas how you can put the contents in that multimedia or presentations, something like that. Also, you have to have a kind of idea, okay, which tool is good for in certain settings. Okay, at this time, I think song is working good for this time. No. In another settings, no. I think the multimedia presentation is good for deliver the gospels. So you have to know well about those multimedia, songs, books, website, whatever, then you have to well equip those tools effectively. Okay, another preparation for delivery, message, the Bible, gospel. You have to have confidence in yourself, actually in God's power. The power of the gospel that transforms the lives of people. Power of gospel brings the awakening of their spirit. You believe, you have the faith, power of gospel that gives awakening to the people, that gives transformation of their lives. Okay? It is important. Corinthians book 2, chapter 4, verse 5 to 7. It says, the point is this: God is always faithful to work through your own efforts for His glory. God knows what we are doing. God knows how you diligently, effortlessly work to deliver the gospel. So God knows your efforts. Then someday you get the result that you want. Sometimes you don't get the result you want. We get disappointed, right? But don't be like that. Always God knows what we are doing. Always God knows how we tried, how we hard tried deliver the message of Bible. God knows. Someday we get the result. I don't know when, but I think God has always perfect time for each one of you. He has planned each one of you, but we don't know. But someday it will come to you. Okay. God's perfect time. Okay, next slide. Okay, we have to believe God has planned. God has perfect time for us to be shining. Okay? Ecclesiastes book, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. I really want you to trust there is time, perfect time for you. Once you believe that, you try your best, one day you're gonna have your perfect time. That is all designed by God. Okay. For personal evangelism, we have to have a sensitivity and respect. This is more related to how we can approach to other peoples who is not believer with the message of Bible. It is also talking about the cultural difference. So we have to have sensitivity of the difference in among the people and respect for other persons' belief, background, religion, feelings. Yeah, those are the topics we're gonna cover in sensitivity and respect. So first, cultural sensitivity. We have to have relational sensitivity, listening with empathy, respect for autonomy, honor boundary. People have their own space. Visible, invisible. Okay? Tactful communication. Modeling Christ love. Respect for diversity. Cultural relevance. Prayerful discernment. Discernment means like insight. So those topics is all related to sensitivity and respect. Okay, in sensitivity, respect. Cultural sensitivity, that means when you deliver your message to others, the Bible message, evangelism, gospel, you have to recognize, respect cultural background of other people, and then their traditions, their belief, even though they have different belief, different religion, you have to recognize and respect first. When you have conversation with that people, try not to avoid imposing your own cultural values, assumptions to other people. Just try to understand, appreciate the diversity of many different perspectives, basically in a cultural context. The imposing means like this. You have certain idea, don't do it with enforcement. right? Strongly against, insisting certain idea to, forcefully insisting your idea to be accepted by others. Okay, don't do it. When you have certain values, certain cultural, idea, or whatever, okay, short video that explains what this culture is like. Okay, short video. Not playing.
What is culture? Of course, it involves national, regional, provincial, and community identities. It creates artifacts we can experience, like language, art, fashion, food, stories, and literature. But it is much more than that. Culture gives us our framing for the way we see and experience the world. It dictates meaning into things like our gestures, facial expressions, body language, and personal space. It creates the connotation behind tones of voice, volumes of speech, and our experience and emotion of colors. But yet it is also deeper than that. It defines our concepts, like what does it look like to be respectful and polite? How to be a good friend, a good student, or how a teacher should teach? What form of leader would I follow, and for that matter, what kind of follower should I be, or should I follow at all? Culture defines how late is too late and what reasons are good enough reasons. How do you build trust? What roles in life do parents and their children play? And at what age does what sort of responsibility set in? And yet culture goes deeper. It helps us to shape our versions of right and wrong. It creates our biases for and against. It builds our expectations around what should and shouldn't happen in any given context. It is often the answer to many of the human condition's why questions. In short, culture underpins everything we experience in life. No two people experience culture in exactly the same way their whole life. Culture is fluid. The more we interact with people from other cultural settings, the more our own fluid definition of our culture shifts, hardens, adopts, and/or rejects. The world meets at the University of Alberta, and with
Okay, culture is like, like this, dictionary definition. Like, it is total ways of living, built up by, group of people. It could be, belief. It could be of, certain value. It could be tradition or whatever. And then also, culture is transmitted to one generation to next generation, right? It could be also culture means invisible or visible. Invisible means like art, right? Architecture, the ideas. Tradition. Visible means some culture have a certain kind of foods, right? The buildings, all included in visible culture, then invisible culture. Invisible culture, like I said, ideas, arts. Symbols, rituals, something like that. I talked about this in another lecture. Okay, people, society, community have their own cultural values. Some culture have strong, individualism. Some culture have, collectivism with more values. Some culture have a religious value more. Some culture have, spiritual beliefs. Some culture have work ethics, success, personal success. Some culture have respect for authority. Some culture have respect for individualism. Yeah. So every culture have different values on certain topics. So we have to respect every culture, every person have their own value system. Okay, sorry, let me use 1 minute. Anyone? Restroom? Okay, sensitivity and respect. Also, we have to consider the relational sensitivity. Okay, try to make connection, relationship with other peoples. The relationship be genuine, true relationship. That to make relationship, you have to put trust on them to make strong, true relationships. When you make the relationship, you have to be sensitive. You have to consider their own unique circumstance, situations they have. People have different needs, different circumstances, different situations. some people have a situation who have really hard time to make their living, right? No time to spend for church or anything other than work, right? Some people have those situations, right? So it is really hard to make connection or relationship with that people or person because they don't have room for making any relationship with others because it is really hard for them to make living, right? So people have different situations, circumstances. So you have to sensitive. You have to know carefully how their situation is different from yours. And then a sensitivity, respect also require listening with empathy. Empathy means, I taught many times, put yourself in someone else's situation, circumstances. That is empathy. Okay? Try to understand their thoughts, their ideas, their worldview, their feelings. That is empathy. You also have to validate, respect their perspectives and experience. That is important. Don't, deny their opinions, their ideas, their perspectives. First, try to recognize and understand their feelings, their perspectives. Then you make kind of connection. Then try to demonstrate the compassion. And then you can get a kind of connection. But some people have different, idea, different, or disagree what you believe. In those situations, you try to first understand, experience their perspectives. That is very important. In listening, actual, that's active listening. Okay, another topics we cover is respect autonomy. Okay, autonomy means the dictionary definition is that's a capacity for self-governance or self-determination. Every people have their own ability to make their own decision and their acts. That is autonomy. So you have to respect other people's autonomy. they have their own ability determine their faith, even faith. They have capacity to, govern their own mind or their own situations. That's self-determination. You have to respect that autonomy. Also, sensitivity, respect. Another consideration we have to have is honor boundaries. Everyone have their own boundaries. First, whatever their boundary is, we need to have respect for their boundaries. We have to have their limitation, right? We need to have respect that limitation too. Because everyone has their own comfort level and their own preferences. That is boundary, okay? When I walk on the street, I have comfort zone. When someone come across too close to me, I'm not comfortable. That's boundary. That's physical boundary, right? Yeah. The boundary means it could be invisible or visible, okay? Invisible means some kind of preferences. So important thing is try not to invade their own boundary, their own territory. Sometimes when you have a conversation with people, please be sensitive to their cues, action, behaviors. When someone has, uncomfortable, they kind of certain expression on their face or gestures, something like that, right? So very, very sensitive you have to have to those things, not to invade their boundaries. Most common boundaries like this, husband and wife, when they have argument, I don't give curse my wife's family, right? That's kind of most common boundaries. Also, my wife's side too. When she got angry at me, she doesn't want to talk about my family's problem. That's boundary. When we cross that boundary, the argument escalate another level, serious level, right? So that's the boundary. So honor other people's boundary. Don't try to break that boundary. That is important. Okay, another short video about boundaries. Hopefully this works.
Hello and welcome back to Prevention Connection. Today's video will cover boundaries, what they are, how we set them, and how we can make sure to stick to them once they're in place. Let's first break down what a boundary is. Boundaries are the limits and invisible lines we set for ourselves. They are the guidelines on what we feel comfortable with and the expectations we have of the people we interact with. Boundaries can be present in all aspects of our lives. They can do a lot to make our lives more balanced. They help keep our relationships and selves healthy, enable us to make ourselves a priority, and help others understand our needs. For example, a healthy boundary to have with our friends is to be respectful of each other's values. Chances are, you and your friends will disagree sometimes. For example, I value time, and my friends are often late to events and don't care if it bothers me. A boundary I'd set is telling them how it makes me feel and asking them to respect my time. A healthy friendship allows people to prioritize different things and maintain respect. Boundaries are personal to us. They can be shaped by many things: our culture, where we live, our personality type, our life experiences, and our family. But how do we know what boundaries to set? Well, you can pay attention to how certain people and situations make you feel. Situations or people that make you feel unsafe, overwhelmed, or make you want to avoid them should be acknowledged and respected. Respecting ourselves and acknowledging our rights is critical to setting healthy boundaries. Make a list of key values that are important to you, such as I have a right to say no without feeling guilty, be treated with respect, make my needs as important as others, be accepting of my mistakes and failures, and I have a right not to meet others' unreasonable expectations of me. Once we have figured out what our boundaries are, how do we set them? Be assertive. Use clear I statements to communicate what you need. Learn to say no and do not feel the need to justify your no. Get help if needed. As we mentioned, some boundaries are tricky, especially
In Asian culture, we kind of hesitate to say no, right? But you have to be comfortable to say no. This is my boundary, okay? Don't break my boundary. So when they about to break that boundary, comfortably say, no, this is my boundary. Don't invade it. Don't invade it. Don't break it.
when they are dealing with dangerous situations such as addiction or mental health issues. Although they are difficult to set at first, boundaries are great tools to help keep us safe and healthy. Boundaries are not only for us, they also help us respect the space and needs of others. We can respect other people's boundaries by listening when they tell us what they need. Being mindful if someone appears uncomfortable. One way to do this is looking for cues such as avoiding eye contact, turning away, limited conversation response, nervous gestures like laughing, talking fast, holding arms.
So we have to be very sensitive. Sometimes we don't know if we break their boundaries or not, right? When we do it, you can feel it. How they change their facial expression or gestures or eye contact, something like that.
Fitting posture or flinching. And if you are still unsure if they're uncomfortable, ask. Create a safe space for them to express their discomfort and boundaries with you. There will come a time when your boundaries will be tested. Someone does something that you are not comfortable with, or you're put in a situation where you feel obligated to violate a boundary you have set for yourself. Prepare for these difficult situations and how you want to respond. Boundaries are the limits we set for ourselves. It is up to us to decide what they are and when we set them. We hope you found this video helpful. If you would like additional resources,
In a conversation or sometimes in a relationship with husband and wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, if you don't know, ask the boundaries. Are you okay with talking about some kind of issues? Because if they are uncomfortable, you cannot talk about it. Okay? That's the boundary. The level of the comfortable. Okay, also communication. Okay, it is important when sensitivity, respect. When you have a conversation with others, be sure not to be. Be sure to not to be like judgmental. Okay, you hear you ask something, then you take the answers from others, then you have kind of prejudice or kind of stereotypes, right? Yeah, that leads to kind of judgment. Yeah, don't do that. Like when my son did something bad in his studying, then I say judgmentally, that's how you are, that's the most you can get, the score at the school. Don't do that. Yeah, something like that. Also, when you do have conversation, avoid using offensive. That's common sense. Offensive, confrontational, okay, dismissive, unworthy. Yeah. And then sensitive respect. Also, we have to use the modeling of Jesus Christ, actually his love. In evangelism, try to reflect the love and grace and humility of Jesus Christ. We kind of need to practice his love, his kindness, his patience, and his compassion to others. Actually, okay, I have another video how we can model Jesus Christ love. Pay attention here. Okay, the Great Commission and other commandment Jesus gave us is love your God, love your neighbor as love yourself. That is true great command coming from Jesus, right? Sometimes people kind of confuse which one's first. Love God first, love your neighbor. Okay, in this video that explains how we can practice. Okay.
So, if you've heard of Jesus, you probably know about one of his famous teachings called the Golden Rule. Do to others what you would want them to do to you. And this, actually, is a restatement of something else that Jesus said, that the meaning of life is to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's really beautiful, but what does he mean exactly by the word love? It's an unclear word in English, because you can love your mom and you can love pizza. And if the word love means the same thing in both of those cases, your mom's gonna feel real bad. So what did Jesus mean in his language? Well, first of all, this love your neighbor phrase is a quotation from the Hebrew scriptures, where the word for love is ahava. However, the language Jesus spoke and taught in from day to day was a cousin language of Hebrew, that is Aramaic, in which the word for love is rahman. But then, as Jesus' followers spread his teachings around the world, they translated them into Greek, using the word agape. But here's what's fascinating. The earliest followers of Jesus, who wrote the books of the New Testament in Greek, they didn't learn the meaning of agape by looking it up in ancient dictionaries. Rather, they looked to the teachings of Jesus and the story of his life to redefine their very concept of love. So one time, Jesus was asked about the most important command in the Jewish scriptures. And he first quoted from the ancient prayer in the Torah called the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart. So love for God is the most important thing. But then Jesus quickly followed up by saying another command from the Torah was also the most important, to love your neighbor as yourself. So which is the most important, loving God or loving your neighbor? Jesus' answer is yes. To ask the question means you don't get his point. For Jesus, they are two sides of the same coin. Your love for God will be expressed by your love for people, and vice versa, they're inseparable. And so this makes
Two sides of coin, like love your God, love your neighbor is inseparable.
clear that for Jesus, agape love is not primarily a feeling for someone else that happens to you, like our phrase, I fell in love. For Jesus, love is action. It's a choice that you make to seek the well-being of people other than yourself. Jesus also went on to teach that genuine love for God and others means seeking people's well-being without expecting anything in return, especially from people who are in difficult situations who can't repay you even if they wanted to. According to Jesus, this kind of generous love reflects the very heartbeat of God. And he took this even further. Jesus said that the ultimate standard of authentic love is how well you treat the person that you can't stand. Or in his words, you shall love your enemy and do good to them, expecting nothing in return. For Jesus, this kind of enemy-embracing love imitates the very character of God himself. Now, we wouldn't be talking about Jesus still today if he had only said things like love your enemy. This is how he actually lived. Jesus was constantly helping and serving the people around him in very practical and tangible ways. And he consistently moved towards poor and hurting people who couldn't benefit him in return. He showed love for the forgotten ones, the people who usually fall through the cracks. And when Jesus eventually marched into Jerusalem, he made himself an enemy of the leaders of his people by accusing them of hypocrisy and corruption. But then instead of attacking his enemies to overthrow them, he allowed them to kill him. Jesus died for the selfishness and corruption of his enemies because he loved them. After Easter morning, Jesus and then his followers claimed that it was the power of God's love for the world that was revealed in Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. As the Apostle Paul put it, God demonstrated his own agape for us in this: while we were still sinners, the Messiah died for us. Or in the words of the Apostle John, God's own agape was revealed when he sent his one and only Son into the world so that through him we could have life. And for John, then, this leads naturally to the conclusion: beloved ones, if that's how God has loved us, then we ought to show love for one another. So Christian faith involves trusting that at the center of the universe is a being overflowing with love for his world, which means that the purpose of human existence is to receive this love that has come to us in Jesus and then give it back out to others, creating an ecosystem of others-focused, self-giving love. And that's the New Testament meaning of agape love.
Yeah, love means we receive the love from God for nothing in return, right? So we have to also practice that love in our neighbor. That is same meaning as love your God. Love your God means you also have to actually practice to your neighbor. You practice true love to your neighbor. That means you love your God. That's, vice versa. Actual action is involved. Moreover, love your enemy means you do good to your enemy, but you expect nothing in return. It is really hard, I know it is really hard, but we try to practice even those kind of love to enemies.
I have a question. Let's say you have a brother wants to borrow your money, and you have a boundary saying, I only lend it to him once. And then the other day he came, he's like, oh, I'm sick, I need to borrow money. So do you choose the boundary saying no, that makes you a bad guy, not loving the neighbors? Or do you say yes, you lose your boundary?
I don't know, it's really hard. But in, you know, bigger purpose, I wanna take, let him borrow money, okay, like, you know, several times, but eventually I wanna say no.
So, oh, okay.
Yeah, because still I have love for that person. I want him to realize, recognize his problem, you know, on his own way. Yeah. So it is like that, you know. There are, you know, on the street there are homeless people. Not you know, all homeless people is like that, but some of them are drug abusers, right? So when they ask money, I have kind of, you know, situation. If I give them money, they will buy drug. So, you know, that is really hard, you know, to make decisions. First, or some situations, it is, you know, the situation that I have to make decision, but it is really hard. Try to have prayer first. Then whatever mind you have, do it first. But instantly in that situation, you know, yeah, I try to give, you know, money to the person, but eventually the idea is I want him to realize what his problem is.
That's good. That's nice. Like you choose the love for the others over the boundary. So that's good.
Really hard. Yeah. Practice real love is really hard. Yeah. Every day is challenge. Okay, and respect for diversity, sensitivity, and respect. Same, you know. Every people have different, you know, religious belief, their own spiritual journey. First, you have to respect their own belief, their own religion. Sometimes you have a situation that you need to talk to Muslims, Buddhists, whatever, respect it. Okay, don't say because you have Muslim, that's why you are a bad person, or you are going to, you know, hell or something like that. Don't do that. Try to make connection. That's the main purpose. To do this, you have to respect their own culture, their own belief, their own religion. Then try to make connection. To make connection, you have to build trust. Okay. Okay, people also, people have different, cultural, religious background, right? Also, people have different level, different degrees of accepting your religion. So we have to adjust how we can approach to the varying level of their openness to our religion. Okay, 57. Okay, I think that's all for today. Okay, for final, if you didn't give me your email, you could email to my email or phone text me your email. Then I want to give you some 20 questions, something like that. Then in the final, I want to give you 10 questions among that.